Welcome to the video lecture on respiratory tract infections. We're going to complete this class in two sessions. The first session includes classification of respiratory tract infections. We're going to list the etiological agents of upper respiratory tract infections, know the major upper respiratory tract infections, risk factors contributing to respiratory tract infections, and we're going to understand the mechanisms by which upper respiratory tract infection occurs. First, let us look into host defense mechanisms. The respiratory tract is exposed to gaseous environment, which includes microbes like bacteria, viruses, spores. So, defense mechanisms exhibited by upper respiratory tract include nasal hair, the mucus lining the respiratory epithelium, and the reflexes like cough reflex, sneeze reflex, swallowing reflex, and antibacterial substances like lysozyme, lactoferrin, and secretory IgA. If the organism escapes these upper respiratory tract defenses and enters the lower respiratory tract, or if it's smaller enough, less than 5 microns, and reaches the lower respiratory tract, the defense mechanisms exhibited are mucociliary escalator action, wherein the mucus lining this lower respiratory tract is viscous, very thick. It traps the organism and the cilia propel it towards the oropharynx. The other defense mechanisms are the alveolar macrophages and neutrophils. In spite of this good defense mechanism, there are strategies which respiratory pathogens exhibit to evade the host immune or defense mechanism. Like influenza virus exhibits antigenic variation. The bacteria like Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenza are capsulated and they inhibit the phagocytosis, and they secrete IgA protease which cleaves the immunoglobulin A, and mycobacteria which exhibits resistance to phagocytosis. Looking into the classification of respiratory tract infections, they're broadly classified into upper respiratory tract infections and lower respiratory tract infections. Upper respiratory tract infections, the upper respiratory tract extends from the nose to the larynx. So the infections include rhinitis, tonsillitis, pharyngitis, epiglottitis, laryngitis, and these infections may proceed or extend into sinuses causing sinusitis and into middle ear causing otitis media. Looking into the major lower respiratory tract infections, first of all, the lower respiratory tract extends from the trachea to the lungs. So the list of major lower respiratory tract infections are tracheitis, bronchitis, which includes even tracheobronchitis, bronchiolitis, pneumonia, lung abscess, empyema. Let us look into risk factors or predisposing factors for respiratory tract infections. Extremes of age, immunodeficiency due to any reason, be it HIV or immunosuppressive therapy, any underlying diseases like diabetes, asthma, the important risk factors, aspiration of nasopharyngeal or gastric secretions, which happen due to endotracheal intubation or reduced consciousness in the patient, coma, or due to gastroesophageal reflex disease. Contaminated instruments like contaminated bronchoscopes, ventilators are an important risk factors. Smoking and alcohol is inhibiting all the reflexes in the upper respiratory tract, and smoking is destroying the ciliary function. Occupation of the individual, any exposure to animals, exposure to parrots, birds, and other animals leads to infections due to Coxiella burnetii and Chlamydia psittaci. Exposure to pollutants like silica and asbestos working in those companies. Exposure to any humidified air conditioners increases the risk to infection with Legionella. Other risk factor is congenital or structural disorders of the lung, or any disorders in general like immunoglobulin deficiency, Cartagener's syndrome, which is abnormality in the ciliary function, and cystic fibrosis, which is a hereditary disorder affecting the exocrine glands, and there's increased thick mucus production in the bronchi, which is predisposing to bacterial infections due to Pseudomonas, Burkholderia, and Staphylococcus aureus. So upper respiratory tract infections are mainly caused by viruses and they are self-limiting. They do not need to be treated with any antibiotics. Only we have to treat the symptoms, relieve the symptoms. Looking into the types of upper respiratory tract infections, they are infections of nares and pharynx like rhinitis or coryza, pharyngitis, Vincent's angina and oral thrush, infections of epiglottis and larynx which include epiglottitis and laryngitis, infections of ear and sinuses like otitis media and sinusitis. The pathogens which are responsible for upper respiratory tract infections are mainly viral in origin. 85 to 90% are viral in origin. These viruses are influenza virus, parainfluenza virus, Coxsackie-A, rhinovirus, coronavirus, Epstein-Barr virus, adenovirus, and so on. Bacteria include Streptococcus pyogenes, Streptococcus group CNG, Arcanobacterium hemolyticum, Corynebacterium diphtheria, Corynebacterium ulcerans, Haemophilus influenza, Mycoplasma pneumoniae, Neisseria gonorrhoeae, Fusobacterium species, and Treponema vincenti. And fungi includes Candida species. Let us look into the pathogenesis of upper respiratory tract infections. So organisms enter the respiratory tract either by droplet inhalation or by direct contact. By contact through hand, and then we rub the hand over the nose and the organism enters the respiratory tract. Once it enters the respiratory tract, there is either direct invasion of the epithelial cells of the respiratory mucosa or or any enzyme mediated invasion of these epithelial cells, which is followed by destruction of these cells. Destruction leads to release of interleukin 8, which causes neutrophil infiltration, and it results in diminished mucociliary clearance. And there's inflammatory response, which is manifested as swelling, erythema, and increased mucus secretion in that area. So how does this inflammatory response happen? This inflammation is mediated by chemical mediators like bradykinin and prostaglandins, which cause blood vessel dilatation, increased capillary permeability, and increased secretion from the mucus glands. All this leads to swelling, edema, and increased secretions. Apart from this, there is airway receptor irritation, which leads to stimulation of parasympathetic or cholinergic stimulation, which leads to symptoms like cough due to bronchoconstriction and rhinorrhea due to increased mucus secretions. Further, if we look, initially the upper respiratory tract infection started off as a viral infection. So the virus is causing necrosis, inflammation, and swelling, leading to congestion of the airways. And further, this viral infection may spread along the mucosa, invading the ear, causing otitis media, enters the sinuses, causing sinusitis, or it may enter into the bronchi and lungs, causing pneumonia. And following the viral infection, which is self-limiting, there might be secondary bacterial infection, which leads to production of purulent exudate. If you look at this picture on the left hand side corner bottom, you see that nasopharynx is connected to middle ear through the eustachian tube, and it's connected to sinuses through the sinus ostium, connected to eye, and obviously to the lower respiratory tract, resulting in spread of infection. Let us start with rhinitis. Rhinitis or coryza is also known as common cold. It's a frequent occurrence. It's common in young children, for that matter in any age group, and it's caused mainly by rhinovirus. And the symptoms here are rhinorrhea, which is nasal discharge, nasal obstruction, sneezing. They can be associated cough and pharyngitis or sore throat, but features like fever and myalgia are very rare. And we should not treat rhinitis with antibiotics. It should be treatment just to relieve the symptoms. Looking to pharyngitis, it's inflammation of the pharynx, which is characterized by pain on swallowing, and swollen red pharyngeal mucosa. So let us now differentiate between viral pharyngitis, which is more common, and bacterial pharyngitis. So viral pharyngitis is more common and it's self-limiting. It's associated with features like conjunctivitis, which indicates towards adenoviral infection, and there is tonsopharyngeal inflammation, but not that intense as bacterial pharyngitis. It's associated with cough, rhinitis, hoarseness of voice, and there may be ulcerative mouth lesions, which indicates towards Coxsackie virus infection. Looking into bacterial pharyngitis, though it's less common, it is more toxic. It manifests with fever, headache, sore throat. There is intense tonsopharyngeal inflammation, tonsillar exudate, and palatal petechiae, and it is more commonly associated with cervical lymphadenopathy, which is not more routinely seen with viral pharyngitis. Diphtheria, it's caused by exotoxin of Cortibacterium diphtheria, which is it causes localized manifestation in form of severe pharyngitis or tonsillitis with fever, sore throat and malaise, and there is pseudomembrane formation in the throat. You can see in this picture the pseudomembrane formation, which is a combination of fibrin, dead cells, and bacteria and other debris, and there is it is also characterized by cervical lymphadenopathy, which can be seen as bull neck appearance. Let us look into Vincent's angina, which is caused by Fusobacterium species and Treponema vincenti. It results in ulceration and necrosis of pharynx and tonsils, and it's characterized by pseudomembrane formation. And the important risk factors are poor oral hygiene and dental procedures. It manifests as halitosis, which is bad breath, foul smelling breath, odynophagia, and submandibular lymphadenopathy. We here the diagnosis is depends on the gram stain of the material you collect from the site, which reveals the fusospirochetal complex. There's no need of culture because it's laborious and difficult to perform. So complications of pharyngitis, suppurative complications include retropharyngeal abscess, peritonsillar abscess, also known as quinsy, otitis media, sinusitis, mastoiditis, septicemia, pneumonia, and Lemierre's disease. Non-suppurative complications are also seen, which is due to Streptococcus pyogenes like acute rheumatic fever and acute glomerulonephritis. Now let us know about Lemierre's disease. This Lemierre's disease is an anaerobic tonsillitis which is caused by Fusobacterium necrophorum, which is a very rare entity. It's seen in young adults, which is characterized by severe pharyngitis, which is associated with fever. There is septicemia, and there are metastatic lesions involving the lung, which is manifested as chest pain, and there is internal jugular vein thrombophlebitis. On the right side, you can see the gram stain picture of Fusobacterium necrophorum. They are gram-negative bacteria. Looking to sinusitis, the maxillary sinus is most commonly involved compared to frontal, ethmoidal, and sphenoidal sinus. It is usually secondary to viral infections like infection by respiratory syncytial virus, and the most common bacteria which cause sinusitis are Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenza. It's also caused by fungi like Rhizopus, Mucor, Apsidia, Aspergillus, Fusarium, etc. The symptoms include purulent discharge from the nose, fever, cough, halitosis, headache, facial pain, and anosmia. That is loss of smell. Because of the close proximity of the sinus to the eye and the brain, the complications include orbital cellulitis, intracranial abscess, and cavernous thrombosis. Looking into otitis media, it's inflammation of the middle ear, which is common in children. And the etiology or the causative agents includes viruses like influenza virus, respiratory syncytial virus, and most commonly it's caused by bacteria Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenza. And chronic infections may lead to cholesteatoma. What is cholesteatoma? It results from dysfunction of eustachian tube, which leads to retraction of the eardrum and this collection of a sac of dead epithelial cells, which leads to erosion of the ossicles in the middle ear, uh, affecting the hearing. So symptoms include otorrhea, that is discharge from the ear, otalgia, pain in the ear, diminished hearing, vertigo, and tinnitus. And the complications include eardrum perforation, mastoiditis, pyogenic meningitis, and deafness. This is a otoscopic picture showing inflamed tympanic membrane. Epiglottitis is inflammation of the epiglottis and the supraglottic area. So the vocal cords are affected. So there is respiratory obstruction and it's an acute medical emergency. And the most common causative agents is Haemophilus influenza type B. It can also be caused by Streptococcus pyogenes and commonly affects children between 2 to 6 years age group. It is characterized by bacteremia and the symptoms include fever, sore throat, difficulty in breathing, inspiratory stridor and muffled voice. Now because the epiglottis is the one which closes the way, the trachea, because it's inflamed, there is difficulty in air entry which leads to a sound which is abnormal sound known as stridor during breathing. Okay. Looking into laryngitis, the most common viral agent which causes laryngitis is influenza virus. Other viruses are parainfluenza and rhinoviruses, and the bacteria like Streptococcus pyogenes and Corynebacterium diphtheria, and even Mycobacterium tuberculosis. In a pre-antibiotic era, Mycobacterium tuberculosis was one of the common causes of laryngitis. And the fungi which cause laryngitis include dimorphic fungi like Blastomyces dermatitis, Histoplasma capsulatum, Coccidioides immitis, and even other fungi like Cryptococcus neoformans. And the symptoms here are hoarseness of voice, a lowering and deepening of voice. So we'll end the session here. In the next class, we'll continue with lower respiratory tract infections and laboratory diagnosis of respiratory infections.